recording. Cool. So we're going to go into materials uh, from Quixel, but I guess first of all, let's just start in Blender, and we're going to open up and show how to import some materials. So I did this with the amusement park folks, so they already know a little bit about this. So here's Blender. I did a little bit last week. The main thing I like to do is I like to delete the camera, the cube, and the light so that it doesn't open up with the camera, cube, and the light. So I delete them and change the default startup file to be blank. That makes me happy. And then for my preferences, I like to change it so that I'm not using the Blender plugins. I used industry compatible. That way it's the same as Maya and Motion Builder. But um, you need to plug into something? You want to plug into something? There's no real need for you guys to be on computers right now if you don't want to make it. I give you that. Cool. So I do industry compatible, and then that way I can use Alt to kind of move around. Cool. And so inside of Add, or so here's your layout of Blender. You can add elements. You can change how the viewports, and here's all the details on the right side. So very much like Unreal, where we have our outliner and then our details. So I'm going to add in here at the bottom is a mesh called Monkey, and this monkey's name is Suzanne. Suzanne has a song dedicated to her by the band known as Weezer. I won't sing it right now. Um, but Suzanne is named after a monkey from a movie from 1994 called Mallrats. Anyway, Suzanne is actually what the yearly name of the awards for Blender artists. They're called the Suzannes. They're named after this monkey that's been in the engine since it very first began. We're going to use Suzanne as a way of learning how to add materials in Blender and bring over these materials into Unreal. So Suzanne's nice to work with because she is low poly, right? Very lightweight, and it's very easy to see. And she has a couple of flaws, and we're going to do a little bit of nip and tuck on her, make her fix her a little bit. So Blender has various things, different modes. We have object mode if we want to move objects around, but if we want to edit objects, we want to go to edit mode, right? And now I can see both vertex points, lines, polygons. It all depends on how I want to select. Do I want to move vertex points or do I want to move lines or do I want to do polygons? On the right side in your details panel, all the features of Suzanne, we want to go to the very bottom, which is called material, right? Or shaders, right? And then I'm going to add a new material, and it's just called Material 01. I can rename it and call it body, and then give it a color. We're not going to, the color's not going to be important. It's more about identifying which polygons we want to have the material. So we're creating a UV set, our material ID. I'm just going to make it red so it's easy for me to see. Now, it hasn't been applied to Suzanne at all. I want to put it on. I know from working with Suzanne before that her eyes are actually not connected to her body. They are separate meshes. So a trick for selecting a blender is to select one polygon on the area you want to select, and then if I hit the up arrow, it selects all that are connected and see how it's not connecting to the eyes. And now I can assign the material to Suzanne. And I might think, oh my goodness, it's not working. It's still gray. And that's because I'm not looking at color. I'm not looking at materials out of Blender. By default, it wants to not have to look at materials in real time. So come over here, say shading, and I can see, yes, I have a red monkey here. Cool. So now I want to do the pupils as well. So I'm going to go over here and select those. Hold down shift, select those. And then if I look around behind, I can see that the pupils have depth. So I'm going to hit up arrow once. And now I have the pupil selected. I'm going to um, make a new material. Make this one called pupil. and then it should be black. There we go. And let's see if I can assign it now. All right. So that seems to be correct. Now on the eyeball mesh, I want to do the inverse. So I'm going to go over to select and say, select me the inverse of what I already have selected. Oh no, they did the whole mesh. I should have hidden the body mesh. Oh well. Let's undo. I can actually select the whole body, hide it, maybe. Say, now I'm getting into fancy stuff. Let's just do it the other way. Let's select all and select all. I'm trying to make this as simple as possible. So we'll just select all the eyeballs. And then I'm going to make what's called the sclera. This is the white part of the eye. And it can remain white. So I'll just go ahead and assign this to the whole eyeball, and then I'll easily just select the pupils again. That's just me trying to be as quick as possible, but as simple as possible. Boom. So now pupil. Cool. So I have a monkey with three things on it. And then we see that she has some problems with her eyes. I'm going to go over to the point mode and just select these 2 points. Go to my move tool, and now I can just fix her. Doink. Cool. No high stakes, but if we haven't done Blender, this is a good way to start, just to think about how we can do very simple things and create material IDs. Sometimes maybe your asset you have is great, except for you just need to have a section where you want to add some sort of stuff to it. So you can export it, add another material to it, and then this, when you re-import it back into Unreal, it'll have another area where you can assign new materials to it. So I'm going to potentially come back to Suzanne, so I'll save the Blender file. All right, so Suzanne. And then I'm going to export an FBX for Unreal. All right. And then it's already named to FBX. I don't have any textures. If I have textures, it's a good process to say FBX is just a container that can contain lights and cameras and animations and stuff. I can say copy those textures and then click this button and say, yes, copy these textures inside. I have no texture, so it doesn't really matter. There's no animations. There's no bones, which they call armature. But there is geometry. I want to make sure that the smoothing is on faces. And so now when I import into Unreal, it won't say no smoothing groups, right? There's a little warning. It's not an error, it's just a warning. So it doesn't really matter, but this is how you get rid of that little warning that there's no smoothing groups. I have no modifiers, so it doesn't matter if I have this on or off or whatever, and put it in my downloads. Great. So now I'm going to open up the one project that I haven't opened up today, which is the in class, where I have my avatars and world already. Cool. So here we go. Here's a little world I made. Here's some avatars I got. And let's bring in Suzanne. So style guide dictates that my assets are going to be in a folder called static meshes. So new folder, static meshes. And they'll make a folder for Suzanne. And then drag and drop Suzanne in. All right. Oops. Suzanne. I'll go back to the default settings. All right, so it's not a skeletal mesh. We don't need to build nanite because we don't really have complicated geometry here. So that'll be good. It's not a skeletal mesh. And then, it's going to create new materials. That's fine. There's no materials here. So default looks okay to me. Cool. I have a monkey with materials on there. Great. So that's how you add what's called a material ID or material slot, right? Each one is given an array number. So 0, because arrays start with 0, 1, and 2. And we can highlight or we can isolate the various materials to see where they're at. Great. Cool. So here is the monkey, and here are the materials. The materials have these nodes, right? It's just for right now, it's a base color into the material render node, right? So a value of RGB, RGB, right? So they're all doing the same thing. If you're ever doing anything manually, repetitively, there's a way to automate this process, and that's through material instances. We're going to create a material that we can then change these parameters in real time. So although I do love my materials a whole lot, we're gonna go ahead and get rid of them. I keep them here. I just don't need them. So I'm gonna create a material from scratch and call this M underscore base material, or M underscore main, or M underscore monkey, or whatever we want to have. You don't have to have one master material for everything. That's a lofty goal, but I can have one master material maybe for Suzanne. And so I'm gonna hold down 3 and then click, which gives me a 3 constant. Plug it into base color, and there the base color is probably the most evident of all our the properties of the material. Black might make it hard to see, so let's make it white for right now. Something great. And then what do I want to change in real time? Well, I want to change that the color for each one of the instances of this. So I'll go ahead and promote this to parameter, call it color, and now color is something I can drive in my instances. You might notice when you get more and more complicated materials that they take a little while for the material to compile, the shading, right? Maybe less so with Swift Shader in there, but you really can't drive these changes in real time. So what we want to do is make an instance of the base and say um, material instance. So if I right click, material instance, right? And then my style guide says I do MI for material instance, and maybe call it sclera. And I might have multiple scleras, so I might call this one white, right? So that's fine. White is white. We're going to have another one called MI pupil, MA underscore black, because we might have different colors. I did a plus sign, so we'll rename that so that it's underscore. And then from the base, one more last time, we're going to make one for body. Create material instance and call this MI body red. I can make a copy of this one maybe by hitting Control D and maybe making one immediately that's MI body blue. Cool. So I'm going to throw in the monkey. Actually, well, I wasn't going to do that. Yeah, so let's open the monkey up here first. I want to replace these. So I'm going to select um, body blue and say use selected asset from content browser. Boom, body blue. Pupil black, which is right here. And then sclera white. There we go. So we can start off this way, and we have a blank canvas of monkey face. Cool. So I'm going to save all. Sure. I actually have another map I'm going to use instead. Let me come back to my maps. I'm going to start from week 3 and make a duplicate for week 4, so I have like an archive of the stuff I've been doing. Okay, so here's both my avatars. Let's go back to my Suzanne mesh, throw it in there, and it has all the materials in there ready to go. Cool. So let's take a look at them. Body. Well, body's supposed to be blue, right? Over here, body blue. So what we have is we have the ability now to change this in real time. Yes, go away. All right. So if I bring this up, now it has a whole different interface, and all we can see is that one parameter. We've created our first parameter, and then we can change it in real time. And immediately, because allocated resources to rendering in real time, it's now an instance material. So this one is called body blue. That's great. Oh, look, we could do a save a sibling instance, right? So we could have done this and made mi body yellow. All right, so we can save a sibling. So this is all the term inheritance, right? And then we need to add in, maybe go for our pupil down here, and we know that that one we want to make it black. Great, cool. So let's hold down Alt and drag and make another one. And then this one, if we add in all the same base ones, it's going to be those base colors. But if we put in maybe base yellow and then make it yellow, you see how we're quickly iterating with just these few parameters. Great. Now I want to make the eyes glow, um, because that looks cool. And if I go back to my base, I can look at this thing called emissive color, which makes things glow. I want it to glow the same color that the base color is. So I'm going to do a math function. I'm going to multiply the color by a single parameter. Type down S and click for scalar parameter and type in the word glow. By default, I want to make it 1. Otherwise, it'll be pitch black because it has no emission whatsoever. And then plug that into emissive color. Hit apply. And now if I go back to my body yellow, I now have another parameter showing up, right? So as we keep on building out the master or the main material, we continue to get more and more parameters that we can drive if we choose to. Otherwise, we can leave it unchecked and we don't have to worry about it. So, and then you can animate these later on in sequencer, which is super nice. So I tear this off, take a look at this body. I said I want to make the eyes glow, but now I'm making the body glow. Let's go to the sclera and turn on glow. There we go. All right. And again, if I wanted to have one of them not glow, then I need to separate them out and have different instances, right? But they can all have the same parameters. They can evolve from there. So this is like the most rudimentary way of like getting into talking about instances and optimization for shader changes and stuff. Um, the glowing is super cool, especially if maybe we want to change the sclera to like a red, and then really make it go. And this is a sample of Lumen, the fact that now materials can actually be light sources. This is again something that's brand new for Unreal 5. It just makes sense. This is something that should have always been the case, but it couldn't be done in real time. But now glowing materials can make be light sources. Before you'd have to put a little light by each of the eyes and make it trick it to thinking that the eyeballs were also illuminating from the lights. But now just materials can make things glow. So as you change it, though, it has to gather these photons. So you see it actually is not quick to adapt. See, it's like it's fading a little bit, right? So it's still flawed, but it's still pretty cool. Great. So those are some drugged out monkeys. All right. That wasn't intentional. Okay, cool. So we've made instances, we've applied, we've imported geo. Great. So let's take a look at some more complicated things from Quixel because that's what the majority of our homework was. This was just background information so that we knew how to handle material instances. So Quixel is now built into Unreal. It used to be a standalone piece of software, but now if you come down here underneath Window, you have Quixel Bridge. And you would think because I'm already logged into Unreal that it would be logged into Quixel. No, I have to log in again to Quixel. That's fine. Quixel used to be, or am I not signing? Quixel used to be like when it first came out, it was like $1,000 a month because you have like this insane database of so many assets and materials. Then Unreal bought them, or Epic Games bought them, and then they made them free for Unreal users. But the users of other software still have to pay for it. So just get a free Unreal license and then export everything into the other things, you know. So I'm gonna log in with my personal one, but obviously we have one for the department if you want to share assets. Otherwise, let's see. Click on the thumbnail of something that can be eaten. This is really becoming obtuse. I guess pizza is the only thing that can be eaten. Please try again. What? No, did I lose it? Is it gone? I think that's basil. These are all jellyfish. You can't trick me. Great. Uh-huh. Cool. Cool. So we're in. Let's take a look at Quixel. So Quixel is basically your interface into this is called Quixel Bridge, is your interface into the repository of everything that Quixel has. Everything can be downloaded locally. By default, the settings has it on your C drive in your documents. If you're one of those people that has multiple drives on your computer and you want to put things on a storage drive, you can change that in the properties or preferences, I guess, and say my library is not on my C drive; it's in a storage drive, so I can download gigabytes and gigabytes of metahumans and all that kind of stuff. Because you do have metahumans inside of Quixel Bridge as well. Um, so the way you navigate Quixel, and again, this is fairly straightforward. You have actual 3D assets, right? So we can start bringing in these real assets. They're categorized by buildings, food, historical, industrial, interior, subcategorized. So just tons and tons and tons of things that are all at your fingertips. It has more plants. If you want to continue to use the foliage tool, you can actually replace your grass, delete it, do nicer foliage, do a nice sampling of a bunch of different flowers and things. It has what they call surfaces. These are materials, right? These are the shaders, and they all derive from a single base material. So that's why it's important to know about instances. Decals are like posters, right? There's like little blood splatters or rust or wet splotches, things. And then imperfections, I think, are things you add into other materials to add a little bit of randomness so that things don't tile too seamlessly. So let's grab a couple of things, right? So in my world, I have crazy fire trees. I don't think there's that many trees in here yet. I think you actually have to go to the marketplace and get their free tree pack. Let's see. Right, they have like tree trunks and stuff. Whatever. So green means I could download it. If I select on it, it should open up a window to the right, and then I can decide what kind of quality. Again, this is how big your hard drive is and how fast your computer is. If I want to move quickly, I'm going to maybe move it to low quality, so it's only like 1024 by 1024 pixels, and I can move quickly, download it, and then add it to project, right? So now this is stored locally on my computer, and I've added to my project. There's because some things local doesn't mean inside your project, so you could share these files amongst your projects and stuff. So I can go on a downloading spree, download all these nature things. They look like birds' feet, don't they? Um, let's go get some other things. Get some food, right? That looks like a horrible cinnamon muffin. Is that a chicken tender? Let's do a chicken nugget. Oh, let's do chicken nugget as foliage and a croissant, a donut. Oh man, who's getting hungry? Pork pie. I don't. Pork pie. That's kind of esoteric. That's a good rye bread. Cool. So right now I'm not adding them to my project. I'm just downloading them locally. Let's get a bunch of surfaces, right? We want to have uh, cool bricks. If I select these items, you can see different setups, different lighting setups. It lets you inspect them a little bit more, right? It tells you kind of what its size is, what other things are related to it. So it gives you a little more information, but you guys can all navigate that pretty easily. Garden plants, cool, little asset packs. Okay, so we got surfaces. We've got maybe throw in a decal. Graffiti makes sense. Cool. Now, if I go over here to my local, now I see what I have on my hard drive, and now from here, I can always add it to my project. So all materials, materials, doink, doink. Definitely got to have the pork pie. Great. Now, I'm gonna go ahead. You can dock it or you can get rid of it. Now I have a folder called Mega Scans. Okay. And it has MS presets. These MS presets are a series of material functions. As you get more advanced, you can start harvesting and using them for your materials you're making from scratch. But for all we care about right now, we're just going to look at the Megascans assets. We have 3D assets, we have plants, we have decals, and we have surfaces. One thing I like to do with surfaces is that if you go in the folder, it's textures and materials. I like to move my materials to the top level so I can see them side by side. That's like the one thing I like to do differently. So I'm saying move, don't copy. Did that just freak it out? Oh, come on. You can handle moving files around. I think it was already saved though, so I'm gonna go ahead and crash it. Control Shift Escape. Crash. Ain't no thing. Moving on. Cool. We're gonna go to the map called Week 4. Cool. And then I have my mega scans, I have my surfaces. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can do that again. So texture. Yep. So I was able to move that one. Let's do the other one. No problem. I just think it's so much easier to have materials next to each other. Great. One thing you can do is if I look at like my meshes, let's find a mesh that has a lot of vertex points. Like, does Material Sphere have a lot of vertex points? It has 768 triangles. That seems good to me. So if I go back to my Quixel settings, I can look at my preferences. Where is it? Tools, open marketplace, tools. So I was gonna show you how to do a blend material real quick. Let's see, tools. It used to be at the top of your screen. Let's see if I can look at my plugins. And Quixel. Bridge is already on by default. Swift shader is already in there. Huh. Miss presets maybe? Let's see what surfaces. There's a way to blend these together, um, which is fun. I'll find you documentation for it. I have it somewhere. Bridge. Oh, I thought it was in here. Local. Three assets selected, downloaded. Ah, I found it. Okay, so we're going to create a material blend. It's done here now. It'll be in its own folder called blend materials. We're going to call this brick combo, right? It's a combination of bricks. And then we're just going to say create material blend. I did. I selected these materials. Okay, maybe I got to do it over here. I know. Change, change, change. I'm out of my depth. One more time. That's fine. But as we look at all these materials, let's go ahead and just get into it. You see you have all these parameters. So if I put one on here, we come to the parameters, tear that off. You can see, for instance, we have what's called tiling and offset. So like tiling is how big it looks, right? So we make it a lot smaller on one axis and a lot smaller on another axis, or the inverse, right? Make it so they're huge bricks, right? So those are important. This is offset, it's just how it rotates up and down. So you can really position things the way you want to. You can rotate it around, right? So all these things you can get into, and you could change all these different parameters because they're all based off of one um, crazy mass material. You're like, that doesn't seem so crazy. It is. But anyway. Cool. So you now have much better materials you can add to things. These Quixel assets, it takes a very, very, very long time to think about how to change them into landscape materials. There are tutorials for that, but I wouldn't go that far for your landscape materials. I'd worry about more about covering up your landscape material with all the plants and assets, right? So we can always go back to foliage paint, and instead of these suckers, we have the croissant and a donut. And now we're painting croissants and donuts. It's cloudy with a chance of meatballs. There you go. Cool. So, you guys get the idea of Quixel at the store. Go shopping. It's free. So let's take a look at uh, adding in some animation, right? We got enough time to do retargeting, and we'll go over it again in this class a whole bunch. But it's good to get exposed to it. The quickest way to do retargeting is in Motion Builder. Motion Builder is Windows only, so I'm trying to adapt to doing other workflows. But Motion Builder is what we'll be using for the second half of class to do live motion capture. I have Builder 2020, my own trusted steed, but it's gonna look stupid. Yeah, look at all the text. It wants to be 4K, but I made my screen not 4K because I didn't want to have to deal with you guys having to see 4K video as HD because that would just be you wouldn't be able to read the text. So Motion Builder is not smart enough to realize to adjust for that. Maybe we'll do Blender first, and then I can do Motion Builder next week when I can start recording from scratch. So Blender, we're going to use a plugin um, for retargeting. Actually, let me just save all to make sure I don't lose all this work. Oh, that might have been it. One more thing. I'm not giving up on it just yet. Go back here, selecting these three, bridge. Let's make it up one more time. Ah, I thought that I figured out a way to beat it. Yep. Well, whatever. Cool. Okay, so we're gonna go to Blender. For Blender, we're gonna do a plugin called Rococo. Rococo is a inertial suit that we talked about. It has a web-based, but webcam-based motion capture solution as well, but it also has a tool for retargeting. It's so you could do live Rococo into Blender and record your things on on your character already. Um, we want to get the one for Blender, and there we go. Rococo for Blender, and we look at the plugins. We go to, we don't need this file anymore. I'm going to save one more time. File, sorry, edit preferences, and then add-ons. I'm going to install it from my downloads, Rococo Studio, turn it on. And so over here, you see this little caret, this tiny little arrow. This is where your add-ons hide. So you see I only have 3 tabs. As soon as I turn this on, it's going to freeze for a second. You're going to think it's going to crash. It's fine. It happens. It's been happening for 3 years this way, but it's going to recover. In the meantime, I'm going to go over to the mocap computer and go to Motive. And Rococo plugin, at least last I checked, and I'm just going to assume it's still this way, actually doesn't work with FBXs. It works just with something called a BVH, which is a text file, a motion capture text file that's human readable. It's kind of the most basic kind of file format, um, simple to use. So I'm going to find some of the stuff that you guys have done. Not picking on anyone. I'm just going to take two. All right, so we got an amazing performance. There we go. Right click. I'm going to export tracking data. Yeah. And then instead of FBX for Rococo, I'm going to use BVH. So remind us, and we'll get your stuff in BVHs for you. Current frame, last frame, all that stuff is good, but I don't want to do 240 frames per second. I only need it at 30 frames per second for game engines. That'll be too much information. By default, uh, everything else is fine, right? The scale might be off, but whatever. I'm gonna be a jerk and put it on the desktop for right now so I can find it easier. And then I think with AnyDesk, I could say actions, no, browse files. So I go to my desktop. This one is this device. It's that device. So I got desktop, take two, right from today, and then I'm gonna put it into my downloads folder here, and then let's download it. Cool. Thank you, AnyDesk. And then let's go to Unreal. So Unreal has it doesn't have a folder for keeping content with it. I often make a folder on the side that's called imports, and this is where I keep my characters if I need to find them. They're all inside your game engine, but sometimes you're importing, exporting things out. I make a folder to put those things in. So if I come over here, and the easiest one to do is going to be my make human character. I'm going to find, I named mine differently than I did for the screen recording. I have Bob and Bobby, just to keep it simple for me. Right click on Bobby, uh, and then export out. And then I can put them inside of that imports folder. And that way I always have Bobby right next to me. Let's keep it all default for right now. If we have come up with issues, we'll come back to it later. All right. And then I can also do the same thing for Bob. As actions, export, and then put them in the imports folder. And then I have access to putting motion capture data on there. Cool. Um, let's do the make human character first because I know that it's going to be less issues. So general, file, import FBX, doo and blind. And then now we're going to go find that documents, Unreal projects. And because I'm going to do this for the rest of the semester, I'm going to add this as a bookmark, imports, and then I'm going to bring in Bobby. Uh, we might have talked about the fact that Bobby has some weird, or Blender has a weird way of showing bones. If we say automatic bone orientation, it should look correct. We don't need an animation because he's just in a T pose, and that should be fine. There we go. And we can't see textures because we have that turned off for real-time previs. Great, but one thing I could do is go to my bone settings, and say bones in front, and now I can see the bones easier. Cool. Now let's also import the BVH. There we go. BioVision is what it stands for. Take two. I think I need to scale it. I forget which way I want to scale. No, not FPS. I think I want to change the scale. We'll see when we bring it in. Yeah, so it's a little bit bigger. Let's go ahead and delete and bring it in at a hundredth of that. So 0.01. Import. There you go. Hanging out next to each other. So we scrub. There we have the animation, right? If we want to, we could trim it here. We could trim it in Unreal. Doesn't really matter. The one thing to note is that this is the pose position. This is the animation position. The rest position, because it's mocap data, is a T pose. That's what's good about the BVH data is that by default it's a T pose. And my character also rest pose is a T pose. Ready Player Me will not be. It will come back as an A pose. We'll deal with that in a second. All right. So this is fine. I know it's in the ground. We can just lift it up. Let's take a look at the Rococo plugin. It's going to make me sign in. I have an NYU login. I did it today already, so now I'm signed in. Come back to Blender, and then it's for live streaming from their suit. Don't need it. Don't need it. All I care is about retargeting. So what is the source? The source of my data is the mocap data, Tina. Where's the target? The target is make human character, and then I say build bone list. Ah, thank God it worked. Okay, so if it doesn't work, sometimes you have to rename these all from scratch, and that takes forever. But it's fine. You say this equals that, and that equals that, and that equals that. Everything's working. I don't have a hips here. Um, for the That's the whole reason why we're doing BVH because it's supposed to have hips. Let's see if I get an error because you have hips and you have hips. Yeah, let's just try. And we're gonna do it from the rest pose. So let's say retarget. Says duplicate target bones found. Please use only one source bone. So here it says left shoulder, left arm. So it didn't do it automatically for us. Right shoulder, right arm. Hopefully everyone knows the human body well enough that you can find these mistakes and fix it. What is another one? It says, please, left arm. Oh, because I used right arm to left arm. Right arm is to right arm. Try it one more time. Thinking and thinking. It's showing math numbers. And there we go. Cool. Not perfect. I shouldn't have raised it. Um, not the biggest deal in the world. So just don't raise it when you do it your own. And then it should be fine. So now it's retargeted. We've retargeted animation. It's there. Um, and I don't need to worry about the skeleton tearing because I'm only importing the data from the bones. So I don't, in fact, Ready Player Me, the trick to doing it, which we don't have time to do today, I'll do it at the beginning of next week, is to delete the skeleton so that you don't have, we'll get to it when we get to it. Okay, so this works. I don't need Tina any longer, so if I delete Tina, sorry, sorry. There we are. We have data. Say file. There's actually like a few animations here. It's weird. The it's not it's flawed, but it's free. So that's why we're gonna continue to use it. So this is in my downloads. This is going to be called Scared. I don't care about anything with the mesh. I just care about baking the animation, and I don't need to add any bones to it, right? So this is called Scared. Export. Looks like it's all done. Thank you for recording something short. And then we come over here back to back to Bobby animations, and then get our Scared. Bring it in. I see it. Did I work it? Does it work? Scared. Make sure that it's not, we don't care about the skeleton, bringing in the mesh. We just want to add it to Bobby that already exists for the full animation length. Cool. Oh, it did mess with the mesh. Interesting. This is all fine. This looks great, guys. This is totes fine. What are you talking about? Something was wrong with that. Um, let's see, fix it or not. Let's fix it or not. Fix it or not. So let's real quickly. We have like 5 seconds left. Let's take the idea of. So this was slightly flawed. Oh, do I want to use the? Okay, well, whatever. Figure it out. Say new thing. So the problem with the Ready Player Me character is that the rest pose is actually an A pose. It's built into it, and that's Bob. We don't need the animation. We bring the animation, whatever. Doesn't matter. But when automatic force bones, okay, bring it in. So Bob's here, but if I select Bob and go to the skeleton, the rest pose, oh crap, they fixed it. The rest pose is now a T pose. So let's try it as well. So we're going to import VioVision. That was like a huge workaround before. All right, let's get Tina. Uh, maybe scaling it was what the mistake was. We shouldn't have scaled it, so I'm just gonna keep it native. So it's super huge. And then Rococo, say Tina source, armature is there, build bone list, everything works, including hips. Uh, let's retarget animation, no errors. Cool. Super straightforward, guys. Right? So this was actually easier. It used to have a big issue. So we don't need the Tina anymore. Uh, we're gonna file, export, FBX, and then this is also gonna be called Bob Scared. I don't really care about the mesh again. I just want to care about having FBX, having the baked animation. Yes, and don't add any extra bones. Great. Bob Scared. So don't scale the mocap. Just leave it the normal size, and you won't have that crazy stretched out thing. Bob, and then the last trick for today is Bob Scared. Oops. Animations. Again, we don't need to bring in the mesh. We just want to apply it to a mesh called Bob. Keep it everything else but default. Import. Cool. So let's see. See, like I told you, everything's fine now, and this one's gonna be just like Bob. Yeah. Okay. I'll figure it out. There's like a checkbox somewhere. But the idea is also not that it's really that important. You can trim right here. So I say right click, say remove everything from 0 to 71, and then everything from, 152, and then now you have your animation without your T poses, right? So we've gotten almost everything figured out except for this little thing. And we'll figure it out. It's probably checkbox, but this is compared to last 2 weeks. This is way less flawed of a demo as those weeks. So um, obviously, retargeting is still a work in progress. We're going to continue working on it and thinking about it as we go along. Feel free to get started on it if you want to try it with the Blender workflow. I'll show Motion Builder, which will be flawless next week. We just have to be able to read the text on the software for you guys to actually learn from it. So we'll get to that later on.